Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome to our Thursday morning meeting, the 14th of March. My name is Andy Hunthausen. To my left would be Commissioner Rolfe. He is out today. Further to my left, Nadine McCarty will be taking care of us today. Good morning. To my right, Commissioner Candace Payne. To her right, Deputy County Attorneys Nicho and Keegan Shea, and our Chief Administrative Officer Roger Baltz. Again, good morning. There's a sign-in sheet in the front as well as agendas. Please sign in prior to leaving today so we have a good record of who's attended our meeting. And we will start with something exciting. We do this annually. I'll put my hat on so to get in the proper spirit and in the proper garb. But we have our annual St. Patty's Day proclamation. And just to preface this, like I said, we do it every year. Tomorrow morning, we're reading the proclamation along with the state proclamation and the city proclamation in front of the Capitol as they raise the Irish flag at the Capitol. And then Saturday, there's a parade downtown, and Sunday, of course, Butte America, because we'll be doing their annual Irish activities. So here we go. Proclamation. Lewis and Clark County, Montana, proclamation. Whereas Lewis and Clark County was the destination for many Irish immigrants, and whereas immigrants from around the world have made contributions to Montana, and whereas those of Irish heritage have surely made their mark on our state and our county community, including the Cathedral of St. Helena and Thomas Francis Marr, who sits proudly upon his horse in front of our state capitol. And whereas we wish to share their Irish heritage and the many contributions, celebrating them throughout the county, and whereas it is our hope that both the Irish goodwill and humor will prevail not only this special day, but throughout the year with charity. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Lewis and Clark County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim Sunday, March 17th, 2024, St. Patrick's Day as Irish Heritage Day in Lewis and Clark County, dated this 14th day of March, 2024, and signed by all three commissioners. So happy St. Patty's Day to all. And today and the rest of the week, go through Sunday, I'd like to be known as Hunthausen, please, Commissioner. If you'd.
I'll work on that.
Yes, happy St. Patty's Day early to you. All right. Thank you all very much. And please join us for other celebrations throughout the weekend. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Unless there's anything else, anybody want to dance a jig or tell an Irish joke or something like that? Okay, we're good to go. All right. Back to real business here. Or other real business. How about that? Consent action items. Mr. Baltz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Payne. We have two items on the agenda today. The first one is item 3A, vendor claims report for the week ending March 15th, 2024. And staff recommends approval of that item. And Marni Bentley is with us today as usual for this item. The second item is item 3B on the agenda. It's resolution 2024-17, request for prosecutorial assistance from the county attorney's office, and staff recommends approval of that item as well. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Baltz. Commissioner, any questions?
I have no questions. This seems fairly straightforward.
Thank you. Any public comment on the consent action items? Any public comment? All right, hearing none. Commissioner, is there a motion, please?
Motion. I move that we approve the consent action items 3A and 3B as presented by Mr. Baltz.
Second, moved and seconded to approve the consent action items as presented. Further discussion. Just maybe it'll be an annual St. Patty's Day thing, but I just want to express my appreciation to Marni Bentley. I try to embarrass her at least once a year. She takes care of our books, that's essentially the county checkbook, and she does a fantastic job. And so the vendor claims report is the official name, but it's always done with care and confidence. Thank you very much, Marni, for your work. All right.
And also, if certain people want to ask questions about why in the heck we're buying razor blades or something like that, Marni knows, and she will give you a perfectly good answer, and it makes sense, and I appreciate her ability to educate me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, with that, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. All right, on to the next item on our agenda, which is a bid award, 2024 Birdseye Road Improvement Project. Mr. Karlin, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne. I'm Dan Karlin, County Engineer for the record. On February 29th of 2024, 3 bids were opened for the 2024 Birdseye Road Improvements Project. Project generally consists of an asphalt overlay for a portion of Birdseye Road from Austin Road to 3 Mile Road, distance of approximately 2.74 miles. Funding for this project is in the road infrastructure budget. After review of the bids, staff recommends awarding the contract to Helena Sand and Gravel Inc. of Helena, Montana for the total contract amount of $434,127 and authorize the chair to sign all applicable contract documents. I can answer questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Karlin. Questions, Commissioner? Please.
When this was just presented to us fairly recently, and you explained it, and we all understand what this is about, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne, yes, 2 weeks ago.
That's what I thought. Thank you, Dan.
Mr. Karlin, oh, go ahead.
I don't have any.
You just mentioned this, but went over it very quickly. Did well, but very quickly. So I just want to reiterate for those that might be watching where this will take place. You said between Austin Road and
3 Mile Road.
3 Mile Road. So it's that kind of that, call it a middle section there
Yes,
of Birdseye.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Please.
So we've been undertaking this in segments just because it is, it's a pricey endeavor. So we have been doing a little under 3 miles at a time, trying to get some material built up on there to try to get a good healthy section on there over time. And as we do that, we'll end up having a longer lasting road in the end.
Right. And just along those lines, the effort has been one of those to, I guess, preserve what's there for the most part and add to that, give it longer life, as you said, because this road was built a long time ago, and the base in some areas of that road is not, if we were building it brand new today, it would not meet today's standards. So what we've been trying to do is, from a surface perspective, add to it and build it up and make the road more competent, if you will, and last longer. Right? Is that
Yes.
on the right track?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne. So some years ago, we did a preliminary engineering report, or PER, that identified the necessary improvements to bring that road up to standard. At that time, it was estimated between $10 and $12 million to do that work. That was a significant time in the past. I would judge that to be 15 to 20 million now in today's dollars, or even more, depending on how deeply we get into the design of that. Paving is expensive, but it's necessary. So the way we've chosen to do this is to add a little bit of material at a time on segments broken down by about thirds to increase that. It's been referred to as a cake mix. Increase the structural section of the roadway. Asphalt has a tendency to get a very high structural coefficient, is what it's called. So you take the thickness of the material, multiply that by the structural coefficient of that material, and you come up with a total number. The higher that number, the stronger that road is and the more resilient that road is. So as you add material, you're increasing that structural number and the resilience of that road.
Thank you. Perfect. Any other questions, Commissioner?
I'm just so glad he went to engineering school.
Yeah. A lot of that went right over my hat.
No, not
But no,
over your
I'm just
hat.
kidding.
Actually, it made sense the way he put it. It's kind
No,
of
it did.
like,
Very much so.
you know, when you're, okay, I don't have insulation for my homestead shack, but I can use newspapers and put them, I mean, this is kind of stuff we've been doing for a long time to get our kind of rugged civilization back in where it needs to be. And good job, Dan. I like it.
Good work. Anything else, Mr. Karlin?
No, sir.
How about public comment on this item? Any public comment? Any public comment on this proposed bid award? All right, thank you. Commissioner, a motion, please.
Oh,
That's
you
you.
mean we've got to do more? Okay. I move that we approve the bid award for the 2024 Birdseye Road Improvement Project as presented by Dan Karlin.
Second, moved and seconded to approve the bid award as presented. Further discussion? Thank you, Dan. Appreciate the work. I actually am going to break a little protocol and call you up one more time, just for those that might be watching. Time frame for this, you said it, but repeat when people might see this action.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne, I believe this is scheduled to be completed by June 30th.
Thank you very much. Okay. June 30th, hopefully, depending on weather and all those other kinds of things, but we'll hope for that. All right. With no other comment, motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Commissioner. All right. Next item on the agenda is a grant award or grant application, grant application to the Montana Secretary of State's office. Good morning, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioner Payne. No need for an O in front of my name, Connor Fitzpatrick, about as Irish as it gets. Connor Fitzpatrick, Lewis and Clark County Elections Office. I bring before you, actually, technically for the second time, because Secretary of State's office lengthened the deadline right as we were meeting about this the first time in September of last year. The HAVA grant. So a little bit of background. Since at least the early 2000s, the federal government has been providing funding through the HAVA grant, HAVA standing for the Help America Vote Act. These grant dollars have been used in the past for helping polling places, helping elections offices all across the country by multiple administrations. So we are very excited to apply for our share of it this year. The general overarching theme for HAVA grant dollars is security. So you'll see a lot of items on the packet there, various security related updates for us, as well security on the physical side, staff, locking items, but then also on the cybersecurity side, with items like network switches and cybersecurity threat scanning for our portion of the county, the elections portion of the county. So all in an effort to bring everything together in a more cohesive and secure whole, trying to build the most secure thing that we can for one of the most important parts of our democracy, the election itself. So this is the first step in a multi-step process for me. Upon approval, I then get to take it to the Montana Secretary of State's office and ask them to approve it and release the funding. Each county is given a set amount of funding from the funding that is allocated by the federal government to each state. I believe the formula is a base amount for all counties and then a further amount based on the amount of registered voters in your county. So like, for example, Powder River, being a smaller county with less voters, is going to receive less dollars than, say, Yellowstone County with a whole heck of a lot more voters than we have even. So our total is 34,777 was the max that we could ask for. $38,777.46 to be exact. And through a lot of brainstorming and taking critical looks at our processes and our security needs through not only our own eyes, but also trained security professionals' eyes, which is required annually by the Secretary of State's office, we came out with a total request of $22,596.44. For a HAVA request, which is then required to be matched 20% by the county for a total of $5,649.11. This money has already been budgeted into the elections budget for this fiscal year. And the total grant amount would be for that 22,596 and 44 cents that I mentioned before. So any questions, more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, just looking for the initial approval here. We will be back again. If I remember correctly, the whole grant process, which I am new to, requires a final approval from the commissioners prior to spending the received money. So you'll see me again on this specifically.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Questions, Commissioner?
No, this has been presented clearly.
Yes, it has. I have a couple questions, though. Just take the
Absolutely.
opportunity to visit with you a little bit. One, this is not new. This is something that we do every election season. The HAVA grants have been around for quite a while.
Mr. Chair, yes, HAVA grants have been around for quite a while. What I've seen in our records, we actually have asked for funding as far back as I think it was the early 2000s, when I was just a wee tyke. Had to shoehorn that in there, sorry. So definitely not a new thing. No strings attached on this one. Just has to be spent according to security requirements, and the Secretary of State's office is the arbitrator of whether those security requirements meet administrative rule of Montana, Montana state statute, or any federal requirements that may be involved there. So nothing to do with any kind of partisan, which is just how I like it, being a nonpartisan office. And it's funding that comes generally from Congress and taxpayers writ large. So in a way, I think of it as us bringing some taxpayer dollars back to Lewis and Clark County so that we don't have to, say, crank up property tax to pay for an ever evolving cybersecurity suite, for example. So by funding it through grant funding certainly means that we don't have to budget like 10-20% more of our budget or even more so. So it's very nice to have this ability.
Thank you very much. And then just in an attempt to educate more broadly those that might be watching today, we kind of, in some sense, just assume elections are happening and there's people working on that and whatever, but it is a heavy and a big lift. So when our every other year general election comes around, like this year in 24, we'll have a primary in June and the general election in November. But on top of that, there's a school and special districts election in May. And so there's quite a bit on your plate. And I just want people to understand that you can tell me how many people are working in your office full-time, you bring in part-time, and then there is a huge number of folks that you bring in and train as election judges. Can you just talk about the process in general, how heavy of a lift it is for this season? Just a minute or two, and then we'll move on. But I just want people to understand that might be watching. And then if there are questions, they can always come to your office and ask about how our elections work, correct?
Mr. Chair, absolutely, yes. I've got an open door policy. Elections is, I have a master's in political science, and they sure as heck don't teach you how to run an election in college. Grizz, by the way, that's my alma mater. So yes, a little bit of background. When I applied for this job in February of 22 and interviewed, I made the mistake of asking, okay, so what does the elections office do in the off year? I got kind of a chuckle or three out of the committee that was interviewing me, because there is no off year for elections. There is only a busy year and a insanely busy year. The busy year being the quote unquote off years, the odd numbered years, where we have a school election in May and a city election in November. If we get unlucky enough to have a bunch of candidates file for city election, and I use the word unlucky in air quotes there, we could also potentially have a city primary in September. Places like Missoula typically have a city primary. We have so far not had to worry about that. We haven't had a whole bunch of people interested in city filings, but just enough to make them usually competitive. And then we move into the even numbered years, where folks are more familiar with elections generally. So some of those even numbered years, there are midterm elections, so they're a touch less busy than a presidential election. But that's only because the midterms don't get nearly as much attention as a presidential election. So for the 2022, that was a midterm election. We had school, primary, and general. The school and primary are practically on top of each other every even numbered year. So concurrently, we are preparing for the school election and the primary. In fact, this year, the school election date is May 7th. And then we mail out absentee ballots for the primary election on May 10th. They could not be any closer, I swear. Regardless, though, the school elections are typically a mail ballot election. So we bring on anywhere between 10 to 20 people, depending on how many different school districts are having an election, how many special districts are having an election. This year, we're looking at the possibility of levies from the Helena School District, as well as potentially East Helena, Trinity Elementary School District, and then 2 special district elections for sure, Canyon Creek Fire and Tri Lakes Fire. Which, quick shout out to anyone who might be watching who's not a resident of those areas but does own property within those 2 fire districts, get a hold of my office because statute allows you to vote in those elections. Just an FYI, might not be something you know about. Beyond that, of course, though, we move into the primary and the general for the presidential election. And in 2022, we had about 350 elections judges for each of those elections. It is my duty to train those folks. Usually we do those trainings right here in this room. If you're interested, give us a call. We've got a few options for dates for scheduling training towards the end of April. And then, of course, between those 2 dates, about 350 people total. With the presidential election this year, I suspect we might be closer to 400 or 450 folks. So training and scheduling those folks is mostly on me, though I do thankfully have some staff who could assist me on that. They are typically helping out with day-to-day processes, including answering a myriad of questions that we see from voters. So with all of that in mind, kind of drawing it all the way back to HAVA here, even corporations have corporations like IBM, Microsoft, et cetera, big names in the business have cybersecurity holes. So what do you think a county could potentially have? We need to take a look at everything, and as many different funding methods as we can get our hands on, we will try to build as strong a fence as we can. I can tell you that only part of our process is cybersecurity, thankfully. So we do have backups in place in case anything happens. IT has been wonderful to work with on this. Don has gotten me quotes on things that we're looking at, broken it down for me so that I can understand it, even with my brief IT background from college. And then, of course, the physical side is where most of my concerns are, because that was actually one of the things that made me pause before accepting this job, was the death threats, the attacks that had been occurring throughout 2020 and 2021 on elections officials. In fact, the FBI have started to take very seriously threats against elections judges and elections officials at large. And some counties in other parts of the country have seen as many as 3 elections officials overseeing their office in as many years. So definitely want to put some physical security in place as well, so that our folks can feel safe when they're coming to work here. Otherwise, as you can see through this entirely lengthy response to your question, we would have fewer and fewer people interested in helping us out, because elections judges, while paid, they're not paid very much. And really, it is a lot of people look at it as their civic duty to help us out, rather than, oh, I'm going to go make a buck real quick. So if they don't feel safe doing that, then of course the elections become more and more difficult to run, which really just, in my mind, becomes a snowball effect, leading to more turnover. As turnover happens, you lose that institutional knowledge. And then, of course, without that institutional knowledge is when mistakes happen, and it just snowballs from there. Apologies for the lengthy answer.
Thank you. It's okay. It was
a
good.
answer.
Yeah. Anything else, Commissioner?
One point I would like you to at least think about, you this morning have talked about the safety of the people who actually they do the work. I think of a bigger concern, or at least a more, it's been talked about in the press more, is the integrity of the election itself. It's my understanding that once, and this is what I need to have clarified, once the vote starts, that the people, your group, and Amy, that they don't leave the building. They have to pay attention. They have to be here. Could you talk about that kind of the safety of the integrity of the process as well?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne, absolutely. So one of the fun bits is that every election is it goes into the night. So election night ends, or election day for the voter ends at 8 p.m. If we don't have your ballot by then, we cannot count it. If we receive it after that fact, we cannot count it. That of course means that we are counting after 8 p.m. for everybody that did get it into us prior to then. School election, usually about 10 p.m. Then we can lock everything up and make sure that everything is sealed. The seals are logged. Everything's locked down and secured prior to we do a canvass after every election. And the Board of County Commissioners are the canvassing board for that. We bring that information, essentially the story of the election is what I like to say, to that canvassing meeting. We discuss how many ballots were sent out, how many came back, what the status of each of those was during the day, whether it was rejected due to signature issues or rejected because someone returned unfortunately we see this way too often, a City of Helena water bill instead of a school ballot. Or any of the other ballots. People just see an envelope sometimes and go, that's got to get mailed back. I really wish they'd stop doing that because the gesture is nice, but we're looking for ballots, and people's really, I don't usually get too religious too often, but almost God-given right to vote.
Almost what?
God-given right to vote.
Yes.
So anyway, for federal elections, that counting process takes a lot longer. While we do have a lot of people helping us prep it, there are a lot more voters, which is fantastic. That's how it should be. I would love to see lots and lots of turnout for all of our elections. It's really life affirming for me as a political science / democracy nerd. But of course, when you have your federal elections, we are required now by state law to continue counting until we are done counting. And we did that prior to the passage of this law regardless. And I remember in 2022, for the November general, we had been here all night. We started about 6 a.m. On election day, about an hour before the polls open even. And then we were here until about 5 p.m. the day after. The only time I got out of this building was to go have, I think I went home briefly as well to change, but I did get a brief bite at lunch. And that was the last time I ate at Bert and Ernie's, and I couldn't tell you what I had. Yes, it's certainly a labor of love for both the elections judges that are involved, but then also the staff. I have a member of our staff who has been here 17 years, going on 18, even with the long nights, the long hours, some folks who come in thinking that everything we do is done incorrectly, done poorly, even though we can give them the exact reasons for why we did it, the legal reasons, the whole nine. And she's still here. She's still with us. Some other counties are not as fortunate, so we try to help them as much as we can through answering questions such as, what do you do in this case? Well, this is what we've done in the past. This is our procedure at the polling places. Just any question that may come up, even down to special districts even, because while Secretary of State's office certainly helps as much as they can, if it's outside of Title 13, they usually refer you to your county attorney, who, as the deputy county attorneys in the room can attest to, are typically quite busy on a lot of other matters. So we have a lot of communication that thankfully has a wonderful network, and hopefully we can help everyone soldier through this one, especially because no one's really quite sure exactly what's going to shake out.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Thank you. We'll move on and back to the item at hand. Thanks for letting us, helping us go off into the weeds a little bit, but it's worth it to educate folks, ourselves and others about the process. But today we're talking about a grant application, Secretary of State's office. It's Help America Vote Act grant dollars, and it has been presented. So I will offer one more time for any public comment. If there's any public comment? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner, how about a motion?
I move to approve the grant application to the Montana Secretary of State's office as presented by our smiling Irish boy, Connor Fitzpatrick.
Second, moved and seconded to approve the grant application as presented. Further discussion, Commissioner?
Nope.
Connor, I'd just like to say thank you. Thanks for the explanation. I appreciate the dedication and being the nerd that you described yourself to be on these issues, because it is important that we take all of this very seriously, and someone is watching every aspect of it. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Payne, thank you. All I ask is that you don't start singing Danny Boy to me quite yet.
Okay. Thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. All right. Appreciate that. Okay, we are at that time in our meeting where we will take public comment on any item that is under the jurisdiction of the commission, but not on today's agenda. Any public comment? It's the time for anyone who'd like to share anything they have with the commission and the public that's watching. Welcome. If you'd state your name and address for the record, and then who you're with, and on you go. Welcome. Is the microphone green light?
There we go. My name is Heather Graham. My address is 17 Readers Village Drive, Helena, Montana, 59601. And I'm here on behalf of the Helena Regional Sports Association, which is a 501c3 organization. I am one of 5 board members. Another board member, Mr. Paul Landis, is also here, should you have any questions of him as well. Helena Regional Sports Association, or HRSA, as I said, is a 501c3, and its goal is to address the unmet recreation, fitness, and wellness needs of the greater Helena area. And the greatest unmet need in our regard is the lack of indoor recreational facilities. We lack tremendous indoor space for sports organizations of all kinds, whether it's indoor turf, whether it's hard court, whether it's an aquatic center and pool facilities, or even the arena out at the fairgrounds. We have been working with the Fair Board now for nearly a year in planning a proposed recreational sports complex called the ARC, A-R-C. You might wonder why it's called the ARC. We originally thought it would be called the Aquatic and Recreation Center, but our thought was maybe calling it the ARC as a destination recreation site would work more effectively. Our concept is a proposal that in time we will bring to you as commissioners. We will ask that you consider enacting a resolution, approving or agreeing to put it on a public ballot for public funding in early 2025. We believe we have very strong reasons to support this. We believe the public will support this despite proposed increase in property taxes. And at a later date, we could go through all of those details. But for now, we wanted to, as a matter of public record, bring this project forward to alert you to it. We are far enough along in our planning process. We're comfortable talking about it publicly. We've retained third-party consultants to prepare a number of studies. One is the economic sustainability of the project. We all know you can build a project, but how is it economically sustainable once it's built? So we have a third party analyzing that issue right now, and we hope to have the results by mid-April. Secondly, we have a study underway analyzing the economic impact on the Helena area as a result of this study. Our proposed ARC will be able to hold statewide events of all kinds, indoor turf, hard court, and of course the arena, which will seat 12,500 people, will be able to hold all kinds of events, whether it's indoor graduations, indoor rodeos, statewide sports events. The arena could also hold an entire football field and hold a football game. It will also include a walking path for the public to use for walking, especially during long winter days when they can't walk outside. We believe the economic impact will be very, very significant. We also will be engaging in a public poll, public needs poll, to ensure that the public will support this. So at this point, we have those studies underway, and we, as the Helena Regional Sports Association, are funding all of those efforts. We are the nonprofit catalyst for this project, but we are partnering with the Fair Board, and the Fair Board and Kevin Tenney have been just wonderful partners, and they're very excited about this. And a fact that I think underscores why they care so much about it is the fact that the exhibit hall is already booked virtually every weekend in 2024 as well as 2025. So it can't offer more to the community or to the state at this point without an expansion. So we believe this project will have tremendous benefits to the community, both in terms of improving the county's physical health metrics, including the ability of all kinds of sports teams to finally have space in which to play and to compete. We'll have an aquatic center to help address Montana's very high drowning rate and to address the unmet aquatic needs. We believe there are very important mental health benefits as a result of this, because when people feel good and they can recreate with other people, it helps reduce depression, helps reduce anxiety. And the science now demonstrates that exercise can be a first-line tool in helping prevent and address depression and anxiety. And given that Montana has the highest suicide rate in the nation, this is something we believe that our proposed facility, the ARC, can address and can help address. So at this point, we have our studies underway. We have costed out the project via Dick Anderson Construction. We had a series of meetings with sports stakeholder groups in November to review the original conceptual drawings. We found out our original plan did not meet the needs of the community or the fairgrounds. We retained architects to develop detailed drawings based on what they heard at the stakeholder meetings. We have a stakeholder meeting tonight. We will be meeting with the sports groups, and then we will show them the plans and receive their impact or their input. We will conclude our work on the studies and the polls, et cetera. And when we're done with all of that, assuming all of the results are favorable, we will then approach the commissioners and ask that you consider putting it on a ballot for public funding. In terms of property tax impact, for a home with an assessed value of $343,000, let's say $353,000, the annual property tax increase is $200 per month. And you divide that to develop a monthly impact at $16.66. We believe the public will Commissioner Payne, I see you have a question.
I just am confused. Did you say $200 a month?
I'm sorry, a year. My
Oh,
apologies.
thank you.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you expressed concern. $200 a year. That equates to $16.66 a month. So we recognize that we fully understand and appreciate the statewide concern over property tax increases. And for us, we believe this project is so valuable and so needed and will be supported, but we have to have a long runway for a public education campaign. We want to have neighborhood meetings. We want to have a full public education campaign, and then we'll see if the public supports it or not. But we believe this will very much enhance the desirability of Helena as a community, I mean, there's the fun factor from the arena alone, much less the ability to hold statewide events, the economic impact on Helena and the greater Helena area. And I've mentioned the physical health, the mental health benefits, driving statistics, et cetera. So we simply wanted to bring this, let you know where we were with this project. I have a PowerPoint copy of the most recent drawings, which I'd like, if I may approach, I'd like to hand them to you.
Please. I can take one for Commissioner Rolfe if you'd like me to. Thank you. Sure. Yes. And okay. Yeah. I was going to say for Administrator Baltz, if possible.
So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We very much appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you very much. Typically we listen to comment. We don't do a whole lot of interaction, but if there are any questions, welcome to ask any questions. If you have, Commissioner.
Only
My-
only my fiscally challenging $200 a month, just kind of, I knew that had to be cleared up because I knew
Right.
it was incorrect.
And you don't have no idea how much I appreciate that.
I do have one question that I'm trying to think as if I were watching this at home on TV, and if I were interested in finding out more about this topic, how would I do that? How would someone do?
The website is helenasports.org, and we will be updating the site shortly with a copy of the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
So the members of the public can see it there.
Right.
And then we will be holding public meetings that will be, publicly noticed after we're done with our studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there other public comment in any matter that's under the jurisdiction of the commission but not on today's agenda? Other public comment,
Oh,
please.
Connor Fitzpatrick, Lewis and Clark County Elections again. This is, I guess, more public comment for the public at home, an effort to try and hopefully streamline some of my office's duties here as we get closer and closer to each election day. If you've moved within the past couple of years and you're not sure your voter record is up to date with us, please, please, please get a hold of us and get that updated. Otherwise, if you put it off until election day, you technically can, but you will be waiting in line for at least a couple of hours, depending on how many people show up. So for those of you watching at home, if you're even unsure whether your record is currently up to date, please give our office a call, 406-447-8339, and we're more than happy to check for you. And if you do need an update, we'll point you to where the form is at and can return it to us in person via email with a live signature or via mail. Again, if you have any questions, 406-447-8339. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any other public comment? Other public comment? Other public comment? All right. Hearing none, Commissioner, we will stand adjourned. Thank you very much. All right.